supplies replenished and fuel tanks full, we left Alice Springs by backtracking up the Stewart Highway and turning west onto the Talawana Road. To keep in the vicinity of the Tropic of Capricorn, latitude approximately 23 degrees south, we swung left to the signpost at Kintor on the Junction Road. This was one of the roads constructed by Len Beadell and his Gunbarrel Road Construction Party in the early 1960s. We were now entering a remote area of the country and planned to call into the Aboriginal community at Kintor, or Wollongurra, for fuel. We have found it is wise to top up where fuel is available in case there are problems with availability down the track. We had no problem getting a park when we stopped for lunch, and what a view we had. At Sandy Blight Junction, this pole would have marked the original alignment of the intersection when the roads were first built. At Kintor, fuel was a no-go due to internet issues, so we set up camp nearby and planned to try again in the morning. With the early morning sun highlighting the colours of Mount Leisler, we packed up and drove into Kintor. The card-operated pump was now working and was soon topped up with helpful advice from some of the locals. Back on the Junction Road, we soon came to the border with Western Australia. Len Beadell and his road-making party put these markers in when they built the roads in the 1960s. There was no satellite navigation then, and Len made all calculations from astronomical observations at night. We now saw some patches of the stunning Gibson Desert pea. A flock of budgerigars played chicken with us, and a lone camel looked uneasy at our presence. The road was now running parallel with the sand dunes when we came to the Curracurra community turnoff. Len Beadell's burnt-out food supply truck can be seen there. We had heard that the community was involved with the funeral and sorry business, so we decided to continue on. Our destination for that day was Jupiter Well. The Gary Junction road has been realigned in some places, and a sign on a blazed tree gave directions to a replica of one of Len's markers, still beside the old alignment. The shadows were lengthening as we set up camp at Jupiter Well. With the pump working, it was good to be able to top up the day water that we used for washing and cooking. When speaking to our campground neighbours, we discovered that they were planning to go the same way as we were, but a day or two later. We continued west on the Gary Junction road until we reached the intersection of Gary Junction. Len Beadell named his roads after members of his family, and Gary was his son. This section of road met up with the more used section of the Gary Highway that comes from the west. It soon became obvious that it hadn't had much traffic for some time. Anne seemed quite relieved when we reached the so-called main road, though it seemed to be mainly covered in camel tracks. She was not so happy though when I was checking for spinifex under the vehicle and found that grease from a front wheel bearing was leaking from the inner seal and required attention. I knew that we had a spare seal with us, so after finding some level ground in a roadside quarry, it was out with the tools and on with the overalls and fly net. With the job done, and after admiring the early morning sky, we packed up and moved on again. The section of road seemed to be in much better condition than yesterday, and then we came across this, pulling up just in time. We soon found there was a go-around track. Then it was back into the overgrown sections again. When we reached Wawa Well, we decided to stop early, have a shower and regroup. Next thing we knew, our Jupiter Well neighbours, Gary and Jean, turned up. We were very pleased to see them. Going on the little used conditions of the track, it looked like it was going to be lonely out there, so their company was much appreciated. The next morning we headed off first, as we were keen to see what lay ahead, with Gary and Jean to follow. Shortly after leaving the camp, we passed an oil drum marking the turn-off to the Beaver's meteorite crater. We continued straight on. As we moved on through the Gibson Desert, the track conditions kept changing, but it was still mainly overgrown with shrubbery or porcupine grass, alias spinifex. We knew we would cross the Tropic of Capricorn on this stretch of track, and 2 signs had been put in. We found the one that had been placed there in 1992.
$23.44062.
We were looking for the other one when Gary and Jean's headlights appeared on the track. We radioed them to look out for it in case we had passed it. And we had. That was our big mistake.
Well, I was looking for it on the right too, and I don't know why, but I looked over to the left and there it was.
That was handy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This sign was erected by the Singleton family in 1994, but unfortunately they had Gary spelt with 2 R's.
23 degrees, 26 minutes, 28.7 seconds.
Back on the move again, we spotted an obstacle on the track.
Make sure he doesn't hang around and jump back in front of us.
The camel, not to be intimidated, was determined to stay on the track. We gave a sigh of relief as the camel eventually shot off to the right. The relief was short-lived as we realised that it was the Talawana track, the way we were going. Len Beadell named this Windy Corner when he built the Talawana track, his last track, in 1963. He preferred it to be called Windy Corner Road. The Capricorn Roadhouse Newman, marked on this fuel drum, is where we hope to be in a few days' time. From Windy Corner, we headed west along the track, firstly dodging the remains of a long-dead camel. Then, lo and behold, we found that we were behind our old friend again. He must have felt the same way as us, and soon peeled off into the bush. After continuing on with our bush bashing and occasional bush track maintenance, we decided it was time to look for a place to camp for the night. After evicting the previous tenant, we settled in for the night. In the next episode of our east-west crossing, keeping as close as possible to the Tropic of Capricorn, the Talawana track dishes up evidence of disastrous events, while in contrast we end up with the splendour of Karajini National Park.